What's up, everyone? Welcome to a special edition free agency episode of the Patel Kumar Show. I'm your host, Shivam Patel, coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas. And my co-host, Mr. Kumar, coming to you live from Mumbai, India. Mr. Kumar, we're getting closer to the season starting. Training camps have opened up. Lots of news, lots of information we got to get to today. I am really excited. How are you, Mr. Kumar?
And I am equally excited, Mr. Patel. Thank you so much. And this is Mr. Kumar coming to you live from Mumbai. And as Mr. Patel mentioned, the schedules are kind of out. We have the Christmas Day schedule and the opening night schedule. And of course, a lot of blockbuster moves by various teams. So I think it's shaping up very well. The training camps have started. The preseason is going to start in exactly a week's time. So yes, it's exciting time for us because we will be back with a bang for the second season. But today we're going to be discussing all about the trades and the games. So Mr. Patel, carry on, my friend.
All right, so to get started, Mr. Kumar, let's talk about the news around the association. And like Mr. Kumar alluded to, the opening night games, which start December 22nd in the U.S., and we have the Brooklyn Nets and the Golden State Warriors, which should be a very interesting game. Kevin Durant going against his former team, Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. And on the nightcap, the Lakers and the Clippers, the Battle of LA. Mr. Kumar, they're really rubbing salt in the wound for the Clippers because they're making see the Lakers get the ring and unveil the banner. So out of those two games, Mr. Kumar, which game intrigues you the most and the game you're most excited about?
I think I'm most excited about the Warriors playing the Nets because I want to see what it's like after the game in the parking lot. It's whether Draymond Green calling Kevin Durant, hey, I got one up on you, or is it Kevin Durant who's calling Draymond Green and saying, hey, man, I'm in a new team, in a new town, and I'm the king of this town, the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. That should be a very fun matchup. Like two teams, heavyweight teams going at each other with a lot of expectations. But for me, it has to be the Battle of LA, Mr. Kumar. I want to see this new look Lakers team. They got a lot of great free agents. The Clippers got a lot of great free agents. Who's going to be better this year? I think it's going to be the Lakers. But I want to see, Mr. Kumar, are the Clippers going to come out looking for revenge because they didn't, meet the Lakers in the conference finals? Let's see if they're going to have a fire and passion this year to prove everyone wrong, Mr. Kumar. Or is it just going to be the same old sorry Clippers we've seen in the past?
Well, I mean, they didn't do a lot of moves in this offseason. Of course, they added just Serge Ibaka. We'll talk more about it in our main section, but but they're also playing two games in the preseason, the Clippers and the Lakers. So I don't know whether it's going to be too much of Clippers and the Lakers, in the span of like 10 or 15 days. So so it's going to be a little bit strange because both teams are going to look totally different, and of course Montrezl Harrell is going to be playing for the Lakers instead of the Clippers.
Right. That's going to be very interesting to see how he fits in with the Lakers. Well, Mr. Kumar, let's talk about the Christmas games. What a slate we have on Christmas Day. We're starting out with the Pelicans in the Heat. We got the Warriors at the Bucks, the Nets and the Celtics, Luka Doncic against LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and the nightcap, the Clippers against the Nuggets. The Nuggets, if you remember, defeated the Clippers in 7 games in the second round. So, Mr. Kumar, out of all these games, which games are you most looking forward to on Christmas Day?
I think all 5 of them because it's going to be like 1:30 in the morning in India when the games start, or 10:30 p.m. When the games start. So I'm going to be like sitting probably with a mug of beer and going through these 5 games at a stretch, and not sleep at all. And that's how excited I am for those Christmas Day games. But I think the most interesting to watch out for is, of course, probably the LA Lakers and the Mavericks and the Clippers and Denver Nuggets, because the Clippers have something to prove to the Nuggets because, what happened in the bubble is something the Clippers can never forget.
Yeah, it's going to be with them for their history, Mr. Kumar. Like this team with all these expectations, they completely fell short. And if y'all remember, we completely reamed the Clippers on that episode. It was just pitiful, Mr. Kumar. I don't even like the Clippers, and I was embarrassed for the Clippers fans and the Clippers players. That was just an awful performance. That's one of the worst performances I probably ever seen in a Game 7 from two superstars, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. But for my intriguing game, this is going to be a game that not a lot of people are going to pay attention to. But the Pelicans and the Heat, Mr. Kumar. How is Zion Williamson going to come in year 2 with Stan Van Gundy? He had a couple of quotes yesterday saying that he didn't get to show off his full skill set in year 1 because, of course, the injury. He came midseason. And also, he said he didn't want to mess things up as a rookie. So you could tell that he's been working on a lot of things this offseason. Let's see how he can expand his game, how this young Pelicans team is going to come, hopefully going to make the playoffs. And then the Miami Heat, Mr. Kumar, ended up pushing the Lakers in the finals. I want to see if the Miami Heat, how they come out, how Tyler Hero improves, and how the Heat plays together.
Absolutely. It's a new look Pelicans, right? It's a new coach. In Stan Van Gundy, it's going to be, a little bit of a new point guard. And of course, they have the addition of Steven Adams from the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, it's going to be, an intriguing team to watch out for. They were at the cusp of qualifying for the playoffs last year, but they probably disappointed us during the bubble. They did have an easy schedule too, but, of course, they have now Brandon Ingram, who has gone for a max extension. So it's going to be interesting, especially to watch the Pelicans. But I think what you forgot to mention is also the Nets playing the Celtics, because again, it's going to be, a former team of Kyrie Irving playing against his new team.
Yeah, the Boston Celtics, exactly. And the Boston Celtics, Mr. Kumar, I don't feel like as many people is talking about it. They have pressure this year because they can't use the excuse that they're young anymore. They have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They got a big, which they desperately needed, and Tristan Thompson. I know he's a little bit washed, but he still has that championship pedigree. The Celtics, Mr. Kumar, need to make some noise in the Eastern Conference this year, or Danny Ainge might completely blow up that team and make some moves because they've been on the cusp for a while, and there's a lot of pressure. But the Brooklyn Nets, Mr. Kumar, I might get on their bandwagon early because they are such a good team, Mr. Kumar. If Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant can figure out how to play together and play alongside each other, they can do a lot of damage and make some noise. And Gaju was saying Suns going to do some damage. What do you think about the Suns this year, Mr. Kumar, after a great 8-0 performance in the bubble?
Well, I think we have to move on from the schedule to discuss about some of the trades. And of course, we will be having a special guest, Akshay Manwani from Sony 6 Around the Hoop, to also give us his views on these blockbuster trades and the free agency moves. But I think it all started with CP3 going to the Phoenix Suns. And, that was the start of the free agency season. And after that, it's been a whirlwind of moves by various teams. The West, I think, got a little bit, the Lakers got a little bit stronger. And of course, in the East, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Bucks made some moves, but I don't know if it's really enough. And of course, I think the surprise package for me was the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah. Oh my God, the Atlanta Hawks, you're talking about making moves. They really try to go for a push. They're not going to go far in the Eastern Conference, but at least they're going to make the playoffs, Mr. Kumar. Signing Bogan Bogdanovic from the Sacramento Kings. I thought he should have stayed with the Kings, but they didn't match the offer. And Gallinari, one of the best shooters in the NBA, a stretch big. They're going to go crazy and pick and roll, Mr. Kumar, with Trae Young and Gallinari and Trae Young and John Collins. That's going to be really hard to stop. And they're going to shoot a lot of threes, and they're going to make a lot of threes. And Bhushan, Brooklyn Nets are going to be the best from the East this season. I completely agree with you. Watch out for the Brooklyn Nets. Mr. Kumar, I know I'm getting a little early here, but I would love to see Brooklyn Nets versus the Lakers in the finals. LeBron James against Kevin Durant.
Well, I think that's what the whole the basketball world is, expecting to see. Probably Kevin Durant, who was injured last year, so everybody thought that the LeBron had a very easy outing, in terms of winning the championship. So we just need to see how Kevin Durant makes a comeback. He was still a brilliant player, one of the top players in the NBA. when he went out injured with the Warriors, but it's going to be a totally new look team. And right now, he's got to be the leader of that team. He's gonna lead that team from the front. But I mean, the Brooklyn Nets. But I mean, the blockbuster trade that happened just yesterday was the Russell Westbrook getting traded by the Houston Rockets for John Wall and a future round pick.
Yeah, so Rockets finally, they had no first round picks or draft picks anyway, so they finally got a future asset. And they got John Wall, Mr. Kumar, who had the big contract with the Wizards. Let's see how much left he has in the tank. He had a big injury. But I like this more for the Washington Wizards, Mr. Kumar. Finally, they're going to pair Bradley Beal up with another impactful player. And Washington Wizards should make the playoffs at the back end of the East, like the 7th or 8th seed. And Bradley Beal deserves a player that can help them win because he's really put his heart and soul into the Washington Wizards. And I think him and John Wall didn't have the greatest relationship. I heard that John Wall kind of got turned off by the general manager, Tommy Shepard, saying we want to build this team around Bradley Beal. And I think they're really starting to do that. But I think what a blockbuster trade, Mr. Kumar. Oh, my God. We heard that they were in talks a couple weeks ago, but then they stalled the talks. But it happened, Mr. Kumar, right before the season's going to start.
Yeah, I think everybody was expecting probably James Harden to get traded, because they did have that infamous call. Everybody discussing about that call between Kevin Durant and James Harden. And of course, he keeps denying that fact, so of course, he didn't call James Harden. I think he just tweeted him or texted him or maybe just IM'd him or something like that,
Yeah, no, he did. And Kevin Durant was saying that, the stories are completely made up in his media availability. And Mr. Kumar, he did work out with James Harden in LA before the season's going to start, but he said they had no conversations about trade. They had conversations about basketball and life and all that stuff. I don't believe that for a minute, Mr. Kumar. How do you not bring that up when it's been in the news? So Kevin Durant, he's not been as friendliest guy with the media, but if it happens with the Brooklyn Nets, oh my God, that would be scary. So we'll see what happens, Mr. Kumar.
Even if it does happen, I think the Houston Rockets have the edge on this trade. I think they got to demand a lot more, than just maybe Chris LeVert or Spencer Dinwiddie or, some other players. I think they need to get somebody like Kyrie Irving to the Houston Rockets if they really need to trade James Harden.
Right. They should exactly ask for a king's ransom and also for picks. But the Brooklyn Nets are saying Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are untouchable. But if they want the trade to happen, Mr. Kumar, you may want to get rid of Kyrie, who might be a cancer in the locker room, and bring in James Harden, who's really good friends with, Kevin Durant. And Gaju also says Harden to the Nets is as badass as KD to the Warriors. So, Mr. Kumar, do you agree with that statement?
Well, I agree with that statement if it's just like Harden teaming up with Kyrie and KD.
Yeah.
But if it's in exchange for Kyrie or something, then. But the combination of Harden in this stage as a top scorer and as Kevin Durant as one of the most lethal players in the NBA ever had, I think that combination is, it's going to be unbelievable.
Oh my God, it's gonna be, and the role players, Mr. Kumar, they already have, like you said, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie. So if those guys are having an off day, or when the defense is focusing too much on the main stars, they can easily dish it out, and they can have scores that could really hurt the opponent. Really, and DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen holding it down on the inside, with their rebounding and shot blocking ability. I think it's gonna be really scary to watch. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Ekalavyas YouTube channel, and continue to give us a live comments. Me and Mr. Kumar love the engagement, and keep the audience comments coming in.
Yeah, and please chat with us. As you saw, a lot of fans putting their comments, and we would like to be as interactive as possible. But we do have a guest coming up who's going to be discussing more about these blockbuster trades that have happened in the last few weeks. And it's going to be Akshay Manwani, who is a resident expert on Around the Hoop show on Sony 6. He's been a writer on Bollywood, a basketball aficionado who has turned into a NBA basketball fan, and now he is a resident expert on the Sony 6 Around the Hoop channel. So let's welcome Akshay Manwani.
Hi guys. Hi Shivam. Hi Vinod. How are you?
Hi. Welcome, Akshay. We're very excited to have you on the show, and what a great, couple of pictures. How was it like meeting Larry Bird, Akshay?
I mean, now it's like anytime anyone says, if someone says, we climbed Mount Everest, I said, well, I met Larry Bird. It's like that now for me. I mean, it's you can't top that, and I must tell you, he was so gracious. I think as the night wore on, there were just so many people who came there and met him. This happened during the NBA India games on the 4th of October, the very first day. So as the night wore on, there were so many people coming and, asking him. He was obliged till a certain point, but then, I think his security stepped in and said no, that he won't be able to do it. So I very quickly, very early in the evening, I think I was the first or the second person to go up to him. And I said, would you mind, posing for a selfie? And he was just so magnanimous. And this is Larry Legend. This is, I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Absolutely. I think I would have loved to do that. But just on a slightly different note, I think your Mount Everest is Michael Jordan.
Oh, of course. I mean, like now I say that the only way I'm going to top that moment is, not that I rate Magic Johnson higher than Larry Bird, but I think those are the guys who are, comparable. Magic, Jordan, of course, is my god. And, if let's say a LeBron comes to India, I think those are the Charles Barkley and Scottie Pippen also, because, those are names that I grew up with. So these 4 or 5 names, I mean, you can't get bigger than Larry Bird other than, these 4 or 5 names.
Right. They're all legends, they all paved the way
Yes.
for the NBA. And like you said, the great, philanthropic work that they've been doing. They're all great guys, all great competitors. So
Right.
That's amazing. So Akshay, we got to ask you about some questions about free agency. So let's start out with Mr. Kumar's Lakers. So what did you think about the free agent moves that the Lakers made this offseason?
Well, it seems like the Lakers are still on a winning run because, honestly speaking, tell me who did better than them. Who did better than them? I don't think, yes, Atlanta upgraded and some other teams. I thought Philadelphia was massive, especially with their coaching and GM moves that they did. But there you see it. I mean, you have Dennis Schroeder, you have Wes Matthews, who was starting for the Milwaukee Bucks. You have, I thought, the pick of the off-season with Montrezl Harrell deciding to come to them, and then a former defensive player of the year. We were having a chat, I was having a chat with some other NBA fans that, tell me when has a defending champion, a team which has just won a title, upgraded in such a massive way. And I mean, you would think of DeMarcus Cousins going to the Golden State Warriors in that 2018-19 season, but he was injured. So he started playing only in January of that year, right? And the Golden State Warriors didn't even win that title. It went to Toronto. So before that, you'd probably have to go to Clyde Drexler joining the Houston Rockets in that second championship year, which was 95, right? 95, and that too, he joined midway through the season. He didn't join. So this is like really big when you're getting a former defensive player of the year, someone who's won a title just Marc Gasol won a year ago, 2019, right. And then you have the reigning 6th man of the year in Montrezl Harrell. You have a great pick in Wes Matthews. Danny Green leaves, but you have Dennis Schroeder coming in, and he's already said that he's done with playing off the bench. So it's like I said, congrats Vinod. You guys seem to be winning it again in the off season.
Well, so far so good. I think. See, my only thing was, of course, the Lakers made a lot of moves. I don't think any of the other teams really made moves that put them, beyond where they were. Especially, I really thought Denver Nuggets could have made some really good moves because they're in that cusp of, that 2-3 ranked team in the West. If they had made some right moves. In fact, they lost Jeremy Grant, and I don't know why. Because,
it didn't make sense. They didn't want to pay him. Yeah.
And he moved to the Detroit Pistons. I mean, somebody actually shunning the Denver Nuggets, who probably were in the conference finals, and going to Detroit Pistons. I mean, that's unheard of.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is that, the only way this Lakers juggernaut can be stopped is, if Giannis decides to join the Miami Heat, because now we know even Klay Thompson is out injured. So the Warriors, in any case, the salary was always going to be an issue for them because they have a high wage bill this season. So, it was going to be interesting how Miami was going to go out there and chase Giannis. Giannis, I believe, has not yet signed that Supermax deal yet with the Milwaukee Bucks. Hey, I mean, given the fact that they didn't have Dragic play in the finals, they had a semi-fit Adebayo who also missed a few games and then played. And yet they were able to stretch the Lakers to 6 games on the back of 2 ridiculous performances by Jimmy Butler. So if Giannis comes there, I think that's the only challenge. Or if Brooklyn does something really dramatic. I mean, I don't see them winning it with Kevin Durant or James Harden and Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. They need another third important player because today all these teams are like, you need 3 stars. The only time teams have defied that kind of 3 or trio superstars is Toronto Raptors in 2019 and then Dallas in 2011. And both those were very, very well-rounded teams.
Right.
And I think go ahead.
I also like that the Lakers got younger, this offseason, with Shooter in his late 20s, Montrezl Harrell. Even though I like all the moves, Akshay, the Montrezl Harrell one, I think it can work with the Lakers, but I think the Clippers wanted to get rid of him because he was being a cancer in the locker room. He didn't really want to be in the bubble, and he struggled, on the offensive end. But I think he can reshape his game, with the Lakers. But like you said, I think the Lakers are better than everyone else. They should, breeze through the Western Conference. But Akshay, I got to ask you, what about the Lakers' rival, the Los Angeles Clippers? What do you think about their free agent moves and their upcoming prospects for this season?
Well, if you look at any organization, any star organization, my best example is, the Bulls in the 90s, or you look at the 2008, 2009, 10 Celtics, when Garnett, Pierce were there. That, the winning culture, the winning mentality, leadership comes from the best players. They set the culture for the organization. Right. Kobe Bryant there for the Lakers in 2009, 2010. They had great leadership there with him being there, Kobe with his Mamba mentality and all. So I think, I don't honestly see Montrezl Harrell as, even if it's been reported, as a destructive presence in the locker room. And then, coming to a team which has just won a championship. LeBron's known to be good with, working with some of these guys. Kyrie Irving, without LeBron, the guys just won 1 playoff series when he was in Boston in year 2 before they got eliminated in the second round. So LeBron, I think, with Montrezl Harrell would embrace the opportunity of working with someone who's probably going to end up as, he's already in my books as the second greatest player of all time. He could make a case for being the greatest. A lot of people also rank him the greatest. So, I think Montrezl Harrell benefits from this move. The Lakers benefit from this move. They get scoring off the bench if he plays off the bench. And I think if you come back to Clippers to answer your question, they need to, I think one of the problems that happened under Doc Rivers is that there was no accountability. Now we're reading all these reports that are coming in that Kawhi Leonard was picking and choosing his games. These guys were determining their own practice schedules. There wasn't enough chemistry. And, that's what happens. Every one of us, I'm putting my hand up over here and telling you that I thought they were the better team, as we were heading into the bubble and, they would eventually get past the Lakers. Everyone said it, right? But what went unnoticed was that there was no chemistry in that team. And, that is what cost them ultimately in the bubble. And sometimes it's just, we don't see those signs. How else do you explain someone being 3-1 up? They were up double digits in games 5 and 6, if I remember correctly, and they still lost. And I heard you say that that's probably the most ordinary performance by a pair of superstars in a game 7. It was awesome. You hit the nail on the head. I can't think of a more ordinary 7-game performance, game 7 performance by a pair of superstars.
Absolutely. And I also feel like, it just complements Montrezl Harrell going to Lakers, complements in the way, because except for playing against maybe a Denver Nuggets or some other like really tall teams, the game is going to more like a small ball team.
Right.
Lakers adjusted themselves against the Houston Rockets. They did extremely well, even against Denver Nuggets and of course the Portland Trailblazers. So in that small lineup, it just matters more because you have a 6'11" and AD who, in a small lineup. You have a 6'9" LeBron James. You have a 6'7" or a 6'6" Montrezl Harrell. So you just get stronger and bigger in that small ball game.
Absolutely, and again, if you look at the West now, we knew the whole Houston Rockets are not going to win it all, but now Westbrook has moved out, so that's one less team now in the West that you really have to worry about. So the Houston Rockets are moved out. I think the Lakers played them in round 2, if I remember correctly. I know this just happened a few months ago, but it gets so blurry, with the speed with which the playoffs get past. It eventually you only remember the bigger picture that the Lakers won it all. But yeah, the Rockets are virtually they you could count them out unless somebody makes a big move over there. So in a sense, Denver lost, I thought, a terrific player in Jeremy Grant. I don't know how they're going to make up with him. Oklahoma City, Chris Paul, Dennis Schroeder were very, very important for them for their playoff appearance. They're out over there. Perhaps that spot might get taken by the Phoenix Suns because the Phoenix Suns, getting Chris Paul, we don't know how that's going to work out. And hopefully Paul, who's also in, is now 33, 34. If he remains injury free, maybe they make a good playoff run because they have a great star player over there and a young core around Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, etc. So a few teams have already gotten weaker in the West. That's what I'm saying. So I don't see anyone really challenging this Western Conference other than for the Golden State Warriors. But we now know what happened to Klay Thompson. So it's the Lakers really should be able to repeat.
Yeah, I think they are going to come out of the West, like you said, Akshay. But now let's talk about the East a little bit. So what are your top teams? I know the Brooklyn Nets are there. The Sixers made some great moves, signing Seth Curry, and also the Boston Celtics, who were very close last year to coming out of the East. What does your order look like in the East, and what teams are you watching out for?
Like I said, for me, more than the players who've come into Philadelphia, I just love I'm a big Doc Rivers fan. And yes, he has been criticized previously. We saw his stats that, no coach has choked more in from a 3-1 advantage and then having lost, I believe he's lost 3 such series now in the playoffs. So it's but I'm a massive Doc Rivers fan. I think he's great for, managing egos and players. He's a player's coach in that sense. But I think the acquisition of Daryl Morey, I think he's a man who knows how to pull the proverbial rabbit out of the hat, a magician of sorts. I would rank him alongside Sam Presti from the Oklahoma City Thunder as, amongst the best GMs that this league has. You can talk about Danny Ainge there. We know the Lakers, Rob Pelinka now over there has done a good job. We have to give him credit where it's due. So I think Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers coming to the LA Clippers, that's to the Philadelphia 76ers, is great. And then, of course, they seem to have managed to, kind of get the shooters. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vinod, but I think Danny Green has also now joined Philadelphia. So it's not just Seth Curry. You're getting 2 shooters. Hopefully, Danny Green is not rediscovers his form with a new team where he wasn't great. We had to look for him literally with binoculars in a couple of those finals games. But I like Philadelphia. Nobody's really talking about Miami. They acquired Avery Bradley, who's a great 3-and-D kind of player, not 3-and-D, but a good wing defender, perimeter defender. He didn't play for the Lakers in the bubble. He chose to stay away. But he's a great acquisition over there for Miami. They have Jimmy Butler, Dragic, Bam Adebayo got his extension, a lot of money over there. I wish he could part with some of it. But I think, and then of course Brooklyn Nets and Milwaukee will continue to be impressive. Boston, of course.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just feel like probably considering that Miami did not make like really big moves except for probably getting Avery Bradley there. I mean, I don't know if they're going to repeat what they had last season, because the East did get stronger. I mean, you will have the Brooklyn Nets coming in with KD and Kyrie, and of course,
Yes.
Philadelphia 76ers improved. A little bit of improvement for the Bucks as well, because they really needed some good, like defender and a point guard, and they got, Drew Holiday from the Pelicans. So, and of course, I mean, Tristan Thompson goes to, Boston Celtics.
They needed a big, so.
Yeah. So I personally feel the Miami Heat and the Toronto Raptors really missed a beat out there in terms of making some good moves.
Yep.
Just to add over here, I believe that Miami is still waiting on the Giannis decision, and from what I'm reading and I'm learning about the Miami Heat is that they plan to change priority if Giannis decides to sign that supermax deal already with Milwaukee and decides to stay in Milwaukee. I believe that they plan to change track and chase Bradley Beal. So, any Pat Riley organization is not likely to sit pat, a pun intended over there. But they would want to go out there and, get that additional puzzle, that one piece which will help them get past it. Like I said, for all their injury problems in the finals, they managed to stretch. I'm not saying push, because I think most of the games the Lakers won, they won comfortably. And the two games that the Miami Heat won were relatively close affairs. So I'm saying stretch instead of push. But they did stretch the Lakers, a fully fit Lakers team, to 6 games, right? So it's just missing that one player, that one crucial contribution. And perhaps Bradley Beal is that guy, if not Giannis.
Right, and it showed in the bubble that Jimmy Butler, how great of a player he is, but he can't really carry a team. Like for a full playoff series or championship. I think he needs somebody else that can complement him. But I'm very interested to see, Akshay, how the Miami Heat play outside the bubble, because I think it was a perfect situation for them. Being with no fans in a closed arena. But I'm very interested to see. But I still think they're gonna have a great season, and they're gonna be a contender in the East. But Akshay, I got to ask you about the Atlanta Hawks. You're talking about making moves, signing Bojan Bogdanovic, a great shooter, Gallinari, a stretch big, Rajon Rondo, a veteran guard, who's going to be a great leader and a great mentor for Trae Young. What do you think about the Atlanta Hawks moves so far? And do you think that these moves can propel them to the playoffs?
Well, I think I'll wait and watch. We know that the East, at that, let's say, that 7, 8, 9 position is not that great. They didn't even have a play-in situation arising in the bubble. In the East. Washington didn't even kind of make it competitive enough to have that play-in tournament for the 8th and 9th team. So I mean, there is an opportunity. It's easier to perhaps make it to the playoffs, but again, the lesson that we know now from this year, especially with the Clippers, what happened? Everyone was saying they're going to win it all and all. Let's just see, because yes, there is Trae Young, the young star on that team. This would be his 3rd NBA season, and now he's got better complementary pieces around him. There's some veteran leadership that he can get, experience from the likes of Rondo. Gallinari can prove to be a solid, I mean, he's not a great scorer, but he's that guy who will probably end up getting 15, 17 points per game, can shoot the ball from outside, score off his own dribble. And Bogdanovic situation, which the Milwaukee Bucks, I think, goofed up. Mm-hmm. So it's a team surely which should improve its situation. Are they going to be good enough to challenge for, let's say, home court advantage, be among the top 4? I'm not sure about that, but it'll be a good start to get them into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving on to another discussion, we'll do some predictions now, Akshay. And who do you think are going to be the 1, 2, and 3 ranked team in the East and 1, 2, and 3 in the West?
Oh well, I think I think Milwaukee. It'll be Milwaukee. I mean, no injuries. It should be Milwaukee, Miami, and Brooklyn.
Ooh.
That's what I see it as 1, 2, 3. In no particular order. I mean, that's East.
Okay.
West, I would say the Los Angeles Lakers for sure, and I would say Portland has also been, I think, fairly
Oh, yeah.
decent. They've not done a bad job.
Yes.
And we must remember that they were pretty much injured, injury driven, injury riddled for most of the season,
Yeah.
with Nurkic out and Zach Collins was out. But I'd still think Lakers, Denver, and between the Clippers and Portland, I don't know. I'd probably go for the Clippers.
At the Clippers. Okay. And who's your early finals prediction, Akshay?
Well, the Los Angeles Lakers versus I'm a Milwaukee fan because of Giannis, so I'm also a sucker for punishment, so I'll say Milwaukee.
Okay, very interesting. And you got the Lakers winning the championship, I assume?
Yes,
early.
yes. I mean, unless, like I said, the big caveat over here is that if either one of these teams makes a really important trade at the at or before the trade deadline, the Miami Heat get Bradley Beal or they get Giannis. The Milwaukee Bucks make an awesome mid-season trade. I don't know if they make an important mid-season trade. You never know. But as of this point, I think, like I told Vinod, the Lakers have been on a winning run.
Right.
What about you, Mr. Patel? What do you think are the top three in the East and West?
So for me, in the East, I have to go with it's Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee. In that order. In the West, it's the Lakers, Clippers, and the Nuggets. What about you, Mr. Kumar?
I would probably rank Milwaukee number 1, Brooklyn number 2, and Philadelphia number 3.
Okay.
And of course, the Lakers are going to top and maybe win the championship, as you all have said right in the beginning of the show. I would still rank Clippers number 2, and I think the surprise package will be Blazers in number 3.
Oh, wow.
So what is interesting is that both of you all are not picking Miami among your top 3, even though they represented the East in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Kumar.
I think one of the key reasons is basically, I mean, I thought, of course, as you said, I think they're waiting for the right move to make based on Giannis, free agent. I mean, max extension, decision. So I think probably they'll do some kind of a move before the trade deadline because they really need, I think a little bit of I know they've got a little bit of a veteran presence in Avery Bradley, but as you rightly said, they just need that one star who's in the cusp of being an all-star kind of thing who can really carry, just help them through.
Right. And as I think Siddharth has correctly commented, I mean, Dallas, great team. We saw what Doncic could do. I mean, I think that was one of the best games that we saw. That was game 3, I think, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah, the game winner.
Yeah,
the game
insane.
Winner.
I mean, absolutely insane. I think it was... he hit it over Reggie Jackson, if I remember.
Right, it was a step back. And Akshay, they would have beaten the Clippers if Porzingis didn't get suspended in the, with a technical foul in the first game. He didn't get hurt. I feel like they would have beaten the Clippers in the first.
Absolutely, and thereafter he got injured. So that's one of the reasons, where we don't know about Porzingis. I mean, I don't remember him playing one entire season fully fit.
And he's not even starting the season healthy. He's going to be
So of course, with Doncic being the kind of the development that he's shown, he's been fantastic. I mean, nearly averaging a triple-double last season itself. That guy, he'll probably go down as the greatest international player if he maintains this upward trajectory that he's already shown promise of in the last couple of years. But again, the question is, what is the form that the surrounding pieces have? I mean, he needs another player. Otherwise, a one-man team is not going to get you far in the West because, there are such strong teams out there.
Exactly, and losing Kristaps, he's not gonna have Kristaps Porzingis, for the whole season. He's shown.
And they lost Seth Curry as well.
Correct.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to, Mr. Kumar. Luka Doncic, me watching the bubble, he really trusted Seth Curry. He would give it the ball to him in the spots for open shot, and I think that's going to be a huge loss. Seth Curry. I think the Mavericks might take a step back. This year they'll probably be the 7th or 8th seed like they were last year, maybe not even make the playoffs, because I think Akshay said it perfectly. You can't keep a one-man show on Luka Doncic because teams have become more physical with him and he's getting kind of beaten up. So you need other players around him.
Yeah. And so Akshay, who's likely to be the biggest surprise this season? One in the East and one in the West.
Well, I would look very closely at the Phoenix Suns. Again, it's going to be very interesting with how if Chris Paul remains healthy for the season like he was with Oklahoma City. I think he was fantastic. I remember a stat where I believe after Christmas they had the best record till the shutdown, because of the coronavirus situation. They were amongst the top 2 or 3 teams after Christmas leading up to the lockdown. And they pushed their opponents in the first round. I think it was a 7-game series, whoever it is that they played, the Houston Rockets, if I remember it correctly. So the coming of a veteran great player like Chris Paul, and then you have a star in the making there with Devin Booker, some other terrific young talent that they have. I think I'll be keeping a close watch on Phoenix Suns, and then equally in the East, one will have to look at Philadelphia, because you guys have picked them up in your top 3. I haven't, because I still feel the problem in Philadelphia is, yes, they were big winners because Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers, but Ben Simmons' jump shot. I mean, that guy can't shoot. I mean, he is so bad. Like Giannis is bad. Okay, we know Giannis can't shoot in the playoffs, right? But at least Giannis is able to knock it down a couple of times from downtown. I think for the season last year, he was shooting 31-32% from downtown.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons doesn't even bother to launch a 3. And, they celebrate as if like, he's climbed the Himalayas. And I mean, this is what you need to do. You need to show improvement. This is going to be your 4th season in the league. You have to improve. So where is the spacing coming from? And the other way that I look at it is Joel Embiid gets very comfortable playing from outside. Why? That guy has the build of Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, he has a better shot than Shaquille O'Neal has from the outside, but that doesn't mean he starts making a living over there. He's supposed to play in the low post. Just give it to him over there and let him get his buckets easily. So I think that I'm going to be interested in watching how Philadelphia brings in this new era, and I'd be really interested in watching them, because they could also blow it up very easily, because we know Daryl Morey is not someone who's happy with the things being as they are. He'll do something.
Right, and I think right now, with Joel Embiid, I think he stays on the perimeter because he's not in shape, and he doesn't always play hard all the time. But Doc Rivers said something very interesting. They said they're going to play a lot of pick and roll between Ben Simmons and Embiid. So hopefully, that forced the defense to collapse, and then they can kick it out to their open shooters of Danny Green and Seth Curry. But like you said, I think Daryl Morey is only going to try this for a year and see how it works out. If not, I think he's going to completely blow up the operation. And completely.
And he's the kind of GM who probably trade Ben Simmons for some great assets around the big man. So Joel Embiid. So Daryl Morey is not going to sit and watch the show. We know him. He's likely to push buttons, do whatever it takes to make the team better. He did it in Houston. We saw the kind of outrageous things he did, while he was there. So it's you have to keep a close watch on what happens in Philadelphia.
Right, they're going to be one of the most intriguing teams. And Akshay, who is your MVP right now? Early season MVP?
Well, again, with the way Budenholzer plays Giannis, and they're in the East and all that. I would like to say Giannis, but I don't think it's going to be. I'm probably going to look at Anthony Davis this year. This is a guy who was on the cusp of winning the Finals MVP. Actually, if you asked me, according to me, he should have been the Finals MVP because LeBron was the more consistent player. But the games if you go into the plus minus stats, AD had a better plus minus overall than LeBron. So again, like I said, the defensive stats didn't necessarily show up. But given the fact that he was guarding Jimmy Butler, I think maybe he comes out strong, makes an emphatic statement, and then LeBron already spoke about challenging AD, so he might challenge AD that hey, go get your first MVP. So I'll probably pick Anthony Davis, but Doncic, that's the other guy. That's the other guy. It could be Doncic.
Well, I mean, well, thanks for your expert advice and views, Akshay. I think we have to move on to probably one of the spiciest sections on YouTube, which is the Patel and Kumar NBA Talk Show Indian Tadka section. So hit the video. Well,
I like you guys in the
welcome back,
pagdi.
Akshay, and as I mentioned, the spiciest section on YouTube is the Patel Kumar NBA Talk Show Indian Tadka section. And Akshay, here we try and connect, of course, India and the NBA and basketball. And you seem to be the right choice because you have been an NBA expert on Around the Hoop, which comes pretty much every Sunday on Sony 6 channel. So we'd just like to know, how has your journey been from being a writer to a wildlife, enthusiast, and then, commentating about NBA and basketball?
Well, it's been incredible. I would say, I first started writing for the NBA. I used to blog, about 10 years ago. This is if I engage whenever the NBA season starts and I engage with it, it'll be my 10th NBA season that I'll be kind of working with it rather than covering it, because I've been following it for the last 25 years. So it's been fascinating. The first 4-5 years were writing. Then I moved into editing the website. From there, that's when the opportunity came towards the end of that stint that, they said, why don't you come, since you know so much about the game, why don't you come and appear on Around the Hoop. And I think it was 2016 December when I made my Around the Hoop debut. And then 2017 playoffs. That was the first year that we did Hindi commentary during the 2017 NBA Finals that was played out between the Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. So it's been really great. I mean, the entire journey. I was also kind of responsible for mentoring and training the Hindi commentary pool at one point in time. So it's just been a love affair. When like I was saying earlier in the show that when I was a kid and I used to watch that, Vinod, you probably know this, NBA Game of the Week on Prime Sports, as it used to come way back in the 90s. I mean, one didn't even think that, one is going to be talking about the NBA, be on a show like this someday, do Around the Hoop, cover a finals game, and talk about it in one of our languages, which is Hindi. So it's just been incredible. I can't even say that it's a dream come true, because at that point, India in the 90s, we didn't even think that there were these opportunities available. Yeah. But it just shows how far we've come, and that this became a reality. And as Kevin Garnett said famously, anything is possible.
Absolutely, because especially, I mean, you were part of that historic NBA India games. You were commentating, Hindi. I mean, usually you do it in a studio, right? I mean, you watch the games in a studio, but watching the game live and doing the play-by-play, that would have been a great experience.
Oh, absolutely. And Vinod, you were there, right? So you know how good my seats were, right? You know how close I was to the action. I mean, we were on the court. We were on the sidelines. We were exactly where, the Reggie Millers and the Marv Alberts are when they're calling NBA games. And we were there. So it was incredible. And, before the game would begin, you would have all the legends walking across: Larry Bird, Dikembe Mutombo, all of them, whoever, Detlef Schrempf, Jason Williams, White Chocolate. It was incredible. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, the we were proverbial little children in the candy shop, when those games were happening. It was amazing.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, being up there at such a historic, event. And Manish is asking, Akshay, what is your biggest NBA moment?
Oh, without a doubt, it has to be the '98 NBA Finals, and I'll tell you that I stayed awake the whole night for Game 6, Utah versus Chicago, and I was so afraid that if I go to sleep, I think that's the problem with most when you're in college or college kids. You can do the late hours, but you struggle to get up early in the morning, and I was so afraid that I'm going to miss Game 6. That I was like, no matter what, I'm not sleeping. So I didn't sleep. I watched the game and I went off to sleep. So, I mean, I keep saying, to watch Jordan and do what he did. Like, people sometimes I get this, I get these comments. Oh, he doesn't like LeBron. He rates him behind Jordan. So he hates Jordan. I mean, anytime anyone tells me that you're the second greatest at whatever you do, if somebody comes and tells me you are the second greatest hair cutter in the world, I would say that's a great compliment you're giving me, because that means in a world of 7 billion people, there's only one other person who's better than me, right? Yeah. So I think it's a great thing to say. But having seen Jordan, having seen LeBron, and they're both great, they're both fantastic. But I think what Jordan did, at least in my mind, he still has, I'm not even saying the edge. I think he is ahead of LeBron. At this stage. Can LeBron overtake him? Sure, of course. There's always an opportunity to get better, to do better. And LeBron is on his way there. I mean, till this championship, I had ranked him number 3. This championship, I'm putting him at number 2.
Yeah,
sorry, I just need to make a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Kumar. It's your guy. He's talking about your guy. Go ahead.
No. Because he's talking about Jordan, the only mistake he's done so far is pay $120 million for Gordon Hayward.
Oh,
so, well, there are many. Jordan, the owner, is different from Jordan, the player. Jordan, the owner is like, there are so many NBA players that one doesn't even remember. But
I had to say that, because we didn't really get a chance to discuss about this, in our NBA segment, but I just had to come up with this. So carry on, Shivam.
No, and speaking of that, Akshay, I don't know about what your thoughts are, but we ran an audience poll asking the most overpaid free agent on this offseason. Gordon Hayward got like 60% of the votes. So,
well, I would say you should have taken that poll 4 years ago when LeBron won Cleveland its first title in 2016. I think Timofey Mozgov, you should go and look this up. Just look at how many minutes Timofey Mozgov played in those finals. And I think the Lakers gave him about $68 million for 3-4 years. And I haven't seen him since, because I guess he probably took all that moolah and has gone to the Bahamas and is living his life over there. So, I mean, that's Timofey Mozgov. This is Firbhi Gordon Hayward, once all-star, and
He's only the third player ever to get multiple $30 million contracts. So I think first is LeBron James, second is Kevin Durant, and third is Gordon Hayward.
And he's not even in the same sentence as those two guys.
Wow. Well, just talking about player salaries, and we now know that LeBron's got this 2-year $85 million, which will keep him with the Lakers till 2023, which is phenomenal. But I mean, let's talk about Fred VanVleet. I mean, look at this, that, Fred VanVleet also signed this huge extension with the Raptors, which is a 4-year, $85 million deal. Yeah. But I mean, just put yourself in Fred VanVleet's shoes for a moment. Here was a guy who went undrafted, right? And he's not as great as he's been for Toronto in the last 2 seasons. Yeah. He's not even half the player that LeBron is, to be very honest. I mean, that nobody's going to challenge that, hopefully. No. But I mean, Fred VanVleet must be thinking that, hey, I am now making the same amount of money as LeBron James. Okay, LeBron's got a 2-year deal and mine is a 4-year deal. But, again, anything is possible.
Anything is possible, right? It really is.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we just want to get more into your personal stuff. I know you just mentioned how big a fan you are of Michael Jordan, and we were talking the other day. So you can probably show off some of your memorabilia and your books.
Yeah. I mean, I have this Jordan figurine which was sent to me by a very dear friend of mine from Hong Kong. He knows that I'm a big Jordan fan, and it's really cool, this figurine. I have it right here in my study. One of the books that I have, which my mother got from me when she traveled to the States when I was in college, was this phenomenal coffee table book called For the Love of the Game, My Story by Michael Jordan. And I was so obsessed with the book that I would actually, there were evenings where I would just be reading it and I would doze off, and I would be, you'd find me like, holding on to it and waking up in the morning with this, like, I'm holding it to my chest. It was a hugely inspiring book, a fascinating design. I mean, it's got such an awesome design that it doesn't look dated even probably 20 years later, so that was there. I have a bunch of NBA books. If I can show them to you here, this is probably one-third of.
It's like the library. It's like a library of NBA.
Yeah,
books.
it's like this is just 1/3 of the books that I have, because that's all my hand can hold. I must show you this book which I got last year, a Sprawl Ball by Kurt Goldsberry. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's like it has insane amount of shot analysis and all that, but so beautifully presented. And that, and I have the book by Basketball and Other Things, which was rated on Obama's top 10 books of the year. It was the only sports book. I have that also in my collection. So I mean, I read a lot. People ask me how did I get fascinated by the NBA. There's no really one moment that I remember, but the few things that I do know is, like, back in the day, again, the Vinod may know this, that there used to be this show that used to come called The World This Week, which used to be hosted by Prannoy Roy. And, every now and then he used to have snippets from the NBA. The Barcelona Olympics happened. Even though we were in India, we heard of this team, which was awesome, which had Magic, Larry, Jordan, Pippen, Ewing, the Dream Team. So that information filtered in. We saw snippets of them playing on World This Week. My school was very close to my house. It was literally walking distance. Ball was a big thing over there. In the evening, we used to play ball rather than cricket. So one just, and then, my father used to travel abroad a lot to the US, and he used to invariably get a lot of sneakers. So that also kind of shaped my love for the game. And there was no one single moment. And then once Jordan makes his return to the NBA, I think by default that game of the week used to be the Chicago. It used to be the Chicago Bulls game. I remember, I can tell you, one of the people would ask me, how obsessed were you? I'll tell you, in the 98 playoffs, when the Indiana Pacers were playing Chicago in the Eastern Conference Finals, games 1 and 2 were not being shown on television. I remember this very clearly because I followed it online on, Yahoo used to give a very boring play-by-play ticker, right? And it was delayed. It was like, I think if the game happened, if the game was being played now, you would get an update probably 10 minutes later of, what the play was. So it was that slow. We were all on dial-up modems and all. And I remember one of the things that Phil Jackson had done was make an adjustment and put Scottie Pippen on Mark Jackson, to throw the Indiana Pacers off their offense, because they didn't really have a backup point guard over there. And that was one of the defining moves in that series that he made, and he started with it from game 1. So I mean, I was so obsessed, staying awake till the wee hours of the morning watching this online. It was crazy.
Yeah, and you're like an encyclopedia of basketball, Akshay, and you're a crazy basketball fanatic. I love it.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen The Last Dance?
Actually, to be very honest with you, I've seen it only once. I haven't gone into repeat mode because it's also very emotional. To be very honest with you, it's very emotional. Now, the thing with like you said in my introduction, I also do a lot of work on Hindi cinema and all that. And many times when I go and watch an old Hindi movie, like if I were to go and watch Last Dance, it's not about watching those moments, which you are aware of, but it's actually a connection with your past. It's a trip down memory lane. And it tends to make me a little emotional, maybe I'm growing old too fast, but so I have I consciously made a decision that I'm going to watch this once and once only, and I don't want to go back because I get very emotional. That Jordan game 6 that I can tell you. I had moved from Delhi to Bombay at that time as a student. I had got admission here in Bombay, and I was living alone in a flat. And it was my first year in a new city, in a new institution. I had been in the same school for 12 years of my life. I had never changed cities. So I was still out there looking to make friends in a new city, new institution, and I can tell you, Jordan in those years was. I mean, he was not just another sports model. He was like an emotional anchor.
Yeah.
You found your best moments when you switched on a basketball game and you saw the Chicago Bulls do what they did. So going back and revisiting for me is really difficult.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. And like he has so many iconic moments, Akshay. I bet it's like hard to choose from. Like he's like so many legendary moments.
Absolutely. In fact, I keep saying this. Everyone knows about the shot against Craig Elo and the shot against Utah '98. But I keep saying that if you want to watch an underrated Michael Jordan playoff series and an underrated Michael Jordan game, go and watch him in the second round series against the New York Knicks in 1992. I mean, that's because even against the Knicks, the series that gets spoken about is 1993, where they're down 0-2 and then they win the next 4 games, right? You remember that famous block that happens, all 3 of them, Pippen, Jordan, and Grant, blocking the New York guy. I forget the guy, but that is in 93. Go back and watch the 92 7-game series. It's there on YouTube, and it's insane. And game 7, he has 45 points in that game. And there's that one sequence where he scores. He splits a double team. He scores, and then he steals the ball. And then Xavier McDaniels steals the ball back from him and is going to make a layup. And Jordan catches up with him and swats strips him off the ball. And Magic Johnson is calling the play, and Magic Johnson says this iconic line, "Whose game is it? It's Michael Jordan's game." I mean, it's insane. So there are just so many things people talk about. People don't realize when he dropped 63 on the Boston Celtics, he didn't even attempt a 3. He didn't even attempt a 3.
That's crazy. That is. I mean, insane.
And he scored 63. You can't do 50 in the NBA today without launching a couple of threes. So he did 63.
Absolutely. And so before we, bid goodbye to you, we would like to know more. What's around in store for Around the Hoop, or just in general about NBA games on Indian television?
Well, to be honest, I'm not the best person to answer that because, again, this is as I understand, this is a renewal year for the NBA with whichever broadcaster they were with Sony 6. Their agreement was with Sony 6 till the end of the 2019-20 season. I don't know whether that deal is going to get renewed with them or there's going to be a new broadcast partner. I have no clue. One is waiting and watching. What I do know about the NBA is that they'll probably do their homework thoroughly, because these are contracts which are for the long term. They're not for a few weeks here or there. So they don't want to do something which is because the new season is starting, so we need to get the deal done. No, I think they'll probably do it the proper way because these are all long-term engagements. And then what the scenario was 5 or 6 years ago, whenever they last signed the agreement. Now you have the digital platform. You have so many avenues there for consuming the NBA game. So it's a lot more decision making that needs to be done.
Right.
Oh.
And before we leave, Akshay, may you give us your social media handle so our audience can go follow?
Well, on Twitter, I'm at Akshay Manwani, and on Instagram, I'm at manwani.akshay. Yeah, that's where you'll find me most of the times.
Yeah, I follow you, and sometimes I really like some of your wildlife, photography
Thank you.
comments, and
Yeah,
and
that's another hobby.
I think we should go to Tadoba once together.
Of course, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that, Vinod.
Yes. So, and we can talk, about basketball, about NBA, while probably getting to watch some Tigers and stuff like that.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
man. That sounds awesome. I gotta join y'all.
You should. You'll enjoy it.
Pandemic is over. I'll come and join y'all for sure.
Absolutely, most welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for your views. And I'm sure, you'll be back. I hope you'll be back on TV very soon as well. And
I hope so too. Thank you.
Best of luck for the new NBA season.
Yep. Thanks so much, Vinod. Thank you so much, Shivam. It's been such a joy. Hoops is something that one can talk of endlessly, and it's been an absolute joy getting together with you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much again, Akshay. It was honored to have an expert to be able to talk some hoops, and best of luck going forward. And we look forward to catching up soon. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, what a great conversation, Mr. Kumar. We talked about all things NBA, and also we were able to talk about Akshay's journey and some of his other hobbies. In basketball, he has a lot of wide range of interest in the crazy Michael Jordan fan that he is, Mr. Kumar.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks once again to Akshay. And of course, as he said, follow him at Akshay Manwani on Twitter and at manwani.akshay on Instagram for his handles. But I think the show would be incomplete if we don't create any kind of controversy. I think we're going to move on to our next subject, and that is connecting India and basketball. But looking at the performance of the Indian basketball team, it looks like we can have that connection.
Oh, man. Yeah, India ended up, falling short in the FIBA Asian qualifiers, ended up losing to Lebanon, losing to Bahrain. But they have another chance to qualify. They have another qualification in February, so I believe they need to win a couple of games there to be able to qualify for the FIBA Asia Cup. And, best of luck to the Indian team going forward. Hopefully they'll be able to learn from their mistakes and continue to get better, Mr. Kumar, for the next tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same reaction that Vishen Raghuvanshi, the captain of the Indian team, is having. Yeah. I think, of course, there was multiple reasons for India's loss. Of course, I mean, nobody expected them to win against Lebanon because Lebanon is definitely, one of the top-ranked teams in Asia. But I think it was a little bit disheartening to see the Indian team lose against Bahrain because I think there's a 40 ranking difference between India and Bahrain. And more importantly, I think in the last window, we lost against Bahrain by a solitary point. And that too, I think we were leading by 11 points. And they scored 12 points in the last 90 seconds or something like that. And we lost that game.
That's tough.
And we were in this window also, we were leading by about 18 points in the second quarter, and then the lead came down to 8 points during the halftime, and then it was all Bahrain, and they just rolled past the Indian team. But I think, as I said, multiple reasons. One is the selection. We didn't have the services of our two tall centers, which is Satnam Singh and Amrit Pal, and I think we also lacked a little bit of really traditional point guard, good playmaking, all those kind of stuff. I think it sometimes just boils my heart that we are not able to find good basketball talent in a population of 1 billion people.
Right, it can be kind of tough, as like Mr. Kumar alluded to. You have their top two centers. I read that they ended up getting out rebounded 49-34 against Bahrain. They completely just controlled the boards. It was tough. And also, Mr. Kumar, Bahrain got 23 points off a turnover. So you just have to take care of the ball, rebounding. It's the basic stuff, you got to do, and they got to play better, Mr. Kumar. And hopefully, they'll be able to play better going forward, and they have a sense of urgency because if they want to qualify for the FIBA Asia Cup.
Yeah, exactly. And they have one last opportunity. I think there is a third window when they play Lebanon and Iraq again. They need to win at least one game to be the third-ranked team, in the group, and they get to go in for a play-in tournament to qualify for the FIBA Asia Cup 2021. So I think they beat Iraq by about 18 points in the last window. So hopefully, we do have a ray of hope there.
Right. Hopefully, they can go and they can completely, they be able to dominate Iraq and hopefully maybe squeak out a win against Lebanon and get their, couple players back, get coached up, and best of luck to the, Indian team. We're pulling for you, and we believe that you guys can do it. So best of luck going forward, and we'll definitely tune in and support.
Absolutely. So best of luck once again to the Indian team. Difficult times. They had to train during COVID. They have another window of opportunity there. So let's hope that some of those important players also come back. But again, best of luck to the Indian team. But before we go, I think we do have a short video that we want to present to you, especially this is from players in Arunachal Pradesh state in the northeast of India. They're looking to raise money to build a public basketball court. Surprisingly, there's not even a single public basketball court in that state. Wow. So they're really wanting to make sure that this happens. So please watch the video.
Time and time we have promoted football, badminton, hockey, and various other sports in Arunachal Pradesh. But let me tell you about a sport that's always been undermined and unheard of. The game that we simply call basketball. The game's about quickness, strength, and agility. It's about mental toughness and preparation. When we dribble past players, drive through for that too. And it's also about blocking our opponents along the way, no matter what it takes. When we hustle and tussle for the win. The celebrations, they never go wrong, they never do. With all that to offer, with all that to provide, and all that entertainment, there remains a question in everyone's mind. And the question is, where do we play?
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color.
हम खेले हैं ना इंडियन गांधी पार्क में नालागंज साइड वो तो तकलीफ होता है धूप में कोई भी ग्राउंड खोला नहीं है आजकल कोविड की वजह से
पब्लिक कोर्ट भी नहीं है तो हम जैसा लोग जो बास्केटबॉल खेलने थोड़ा पैशनेट है थोड़ा मुश्किल लगता है खेलने का कोई जगह नहीं है तो कुछ कर नहीं पाते हैं कोर्ट पब्लिक पार्क लोग पे प्रोवाइड करना चाहिए ताकि सब लोग आके खेल पाए
ये हम लोग खुद से बनाया हुआ गया है कोर्ट यहाँ पे हम लोग सब साथ में पर हम खेलते हैं लेकिन यहाँ पे मेन प्रॉब्लम ये है कि यहाँ एक कोर्ट नहीं जो हम लोग जहाँ पे वेल प्लेड वाला गेम खेल सके यहाँ तो प्रॉपर गेम नहीं और ये शूट भी मारने तकलीफ है पूरा रस्सी बांध के भी डाला हुआ हम लोग खुद से मैनेज किया हुआ
जैसे तैसे खेले माने बोल के नालागंज से होते ट्रेगर से वापस रात को लिफ्ट लेके जाना पड़ता है वही था
हुक भी इतना दिन का जुगाड़ करके लगाया बोर्ड भी नहीं है सिर्फ हुक लगा के रखा है यहाँ में बढ़ती है प्लेयर्स तो देखिए आप देख सकते हैं इतना ज़्यादा है और कोई
Namaste everyone. For so many years we have been trying to facilitate our player with a better court. और ये साल हम लोग को अपॉर्चुनिटी मिला कि आप लोग को एक अच्छा कोर्ट हम लोग दे सकने के लिए. But due to lack of our fund, we need your support and keep supporting us.
Yes, thank you for watching that. And of course, you had that information in terms of making a donation to the Arunachal Pradesh Basketball Association. They want to build a public basketball court. They have the site ready. So your donations would really help. And if you feel you want to support them, please go back to this video and maybe watch the information again, and you can make the donation.
Right. Yeah. Please donate. If you are able to, make sure, like Mr. Kumar said, please go back and check out the website and then go back for the information. But what an inspiring video, Mr. Kumar. What an amazing video. And we hope, that everyone can give as much donation as they can. And remember to connect with Patel and Kumar on Twitter and Instagram. And feel free, to DM me and Mr. Kumar. Continue with the live chats. We love the engagement. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Ekalavyas YouTube channel, and also like, share, and subscribe to Patel Pick and Roll Sports YouTube channel.
Absolutely. And don't forget, we're going to be back for the second season of the Patel and Kumar NBA Talk Show starting December 22nd at 8 p.m. And that is just before the season starts, because blockbuster games, Warriors versus the Nets, and the Lakers versus the Clippers. And the Lakers are going to crush the Clippers, Mr. Patel.
Oh, man. Yeah, they are. They are. Let's see, Mr. Kumar, the rematch. There's no other place you want to be when the NBA season starts besides the Patel and Kumar show. We got the best analysis. We have the most fun. We bring the best guests. So be sure to tune in to the Patel and Kumar NBA Talk Show, the next episode, December 22nd at 8 p.m. India time.
So till then, adios.